Hey everyone, good afternoon. Day after the election, Trump won, and I see, and not everyone's really happy, but a lot of people are happy. I think majority of the country that voted for Trump, and it worked out for at least my favor. I wanted Trump to win, and I made clear that. But I want to make this video so that make this video to the people that aren't happy with Trump and are saying certain things that um, he might have said and taking it out of context, or at least some of the things that he said, and you're taking some of those things out of context. Um, but if you guys are mad that Trump won, I would say you should be mad that the Democratic Party lost. And they lost not only the presidency, but they also lost the House and the Senate. And that's their fault. That's no one else's fault, but the Democratic Party's fault. And it's like I can make the same analogy. Like when the Red Sox play the Yankees, I always root for the Red Sox to win, not for the Yankees to lose, right? So if the Yankees were to somehow beat the Red Sox, let's say in a playoff game, I'm not more upset that the Yankees beat us. I'm more upset that the Red Sox lost because I will hold the Red Sox. I feel like I should hold the Red Sox accountable because they should have been better or played better or should have done certain things to win the game. In my opinion, that's what the Democratic Party did not do. But we can take a look at it. Like going back to 2020, people like myself voted for Joe Biden just to get Trump out the office. How ignorant were we? Or at least how ignorant was I to just only vote for him just to get Trump out and not even want Joe Biden to be president either. Or at least he wasn't my top choice. But, that happened. And then, we were coming out of COVID 2021. We were pretty much getting out of COVID. Things were starting to become normal. And then, we started dealing with a couple of things start coming up, like Ukraine, the Ukraine and Russia war that should have never started. I blame the Democratic Party. There's a lot of Republicans to blame on that as well, though. Don't get me wrong. Like people like Nikki Haley, these neocons, who make a lot of money on war, and those are evil human beings. So, but we do know that Kamala Harris in 2021, I think it was, went to Ukraine, spoke to Ukraine, and then within the week, Russia invaded Ukraine. How does that happen? Can someone please explain that to me? I believe, and I would say that I'm rightfully so to believe this, is that Harris went in there with the agenda to support Ukraine, and had backing from Congress and the president. President Sleepy Joe Biden, who's still our president, guys, and agreed that we were going to send a lot of money to Ukraine to help them fight a war if they decide to, if they attempt to join NATO. And we knew what was going to happen. We all knew that if Ukraine decided to join NATO, Russia was going to respond, and they did. And they did within the week. So we have Russia immediately went over to Ukraine, attacked Ukraine, and look at all the people that died. All the people that died from Ukraine, people from Ukraine and the Russians. Those people did not need to die. And now you just see its destruction. We tried to handicap the Russian dollar, and that failed on us too. If anything, it was a nice genius. What Putin did with the oil industry and made everyone depend on his oil by trying to collapse the. It's just a joke. The war should have never happened, and I blame Harris and Biden for speaking to Zelensky and allowing him to feel that it was okay to go to war. He shouldn't have done that. That guy's a corrupt individual, truly evil human being. Anyone that's willing to send other people to war, especially when it's not needed, it's different from defending yourself, right? If someone is invading your country and you feel like you need to use the military to protect your people, then I'm okay with that, 100%. No matter the cost, you have to protect your home. But to essentially start problems with a nation that's right next door to you just because you want to join an organization to feel more protected. Like, that's silly. If anything, work with them. They're right there. They're your neighbors. But I blame Biden and Harris for that 100%. It's their fault. I truly believe that. And then the whole vaccine mandates. I don't agree with the vaccine mandates at all. The vaccine mandates were another way to control people, in my opinion. I think there's one thing for you to feel like you need to take the vaccine. Go ahead. I was forced to eventually take the vaccine. I took it, not because I wanted to. And this is not. I'm not out here saying that I'm anti-vaccine. I'm just not. I'm a type of person that doesn't get sick at all. So for me, what was the point of getting a vaccine? Once I got exposed to COVID, that's it. I already built a natural immunity. I don't need to get a vaccine. And I think that's a fair argument to make. And I know people are gonna say, "Oh, but what about other people that don't, that might not have the immunity? What if they have certain conditions?" Yeah, that's why the vaccine is there for them. They can take the vaccine. But me taking the vaccine and them taking the vaccine, or me not taking the vaccine and them having the vaccine, it's not like it's gonna be worse off for that person. I had a big issue with that vaccine. I thought that they handled that poorly. I think Trump was part of that too, if I'm not mistaken. But that was a big issue. I didn't like all the censoring shit. The Democratic Party was censoring everyone. Anyone that talked good or bad about the vaccine got censored. Anyone that talked about the Republican Party or Trump, censor. What Elon Musk did buying X was one of the most humanitarian things a human could do. And I know that's like, oh, that might not be taken well, but in reality, this guy bought a platform that he did not need to buy. And I'm not going to sit here and say this guy is he's a saint or he's a good human being or whatever. I'm just saying he did not need to go out of his way to find investors to help him buy Twitter, overpay for Twitter. I think Twitter was worth like $20 billion or so. He paid $44 billion. So he paid almost double for Twitter. For what? For free speech. And then he uncovered the files, started releasing the files, and then we started seeing that the Biden administration was censoring free speech. Even if you think that someone has this information or is a conspiracy theorist or whatever, you still have to let them express their opinion. I think that's the only thing I think that's only right. I think it's unfair that we try to control what someone can and cannot say. And I understand that there's consequences, but let the consequences be met wherever they're at, or whatever situation they're in. But we should never censor anyone, unless it's gonna, obviously, unless you're citing violence or something like that. But that's also like a gray area. Like, how do you determine this is inciting violence or not? But the censoring that the Democratic Party was doing with Facebook, with rather Meta and X, or then Twitter, that was just wrong. That was wrong. That goes against everything that we stand for. And I'm glad that someone like Elon Musk went out of his way to buy it, release all those files, release how Twitter was covering up a lot of their censoring, and they deleted a lot of information too. But I really do appreciate that he went out of his way and did that for us. And the Democratic Party did a good job trying to censor everyone. They just did. They tried to make sure that they fed you the information that they wanted to feed you. And this Democratic Party fought. So all you've done, I said 3 things, and a lot of this stuff happened in 2021, 2022. And these 3 things are big deals. It was already enough for people to slowly separate themselves from this party. And then you start seeing the transgenderism. Again, I'm sure you hear all the time, oh, I'm okay with adults doing whatever they want. I'm okay with that too, but leave the kids alone. That's not controversial. It's not. Leave the kids alone. We shouldn't be talking about sexuality. We shouldn't be talking about pride for kids. And that's sex. It is what it is. Even if you disagree with that, it is talking about sex. And then transgenderism, that should not be happening with kids. It just shouldn't. I love that general, I forget his name, but how And one of these Congress meetings, AOC was trying to check him. He was checking him hard, like about seeking asylum or whatnot. And he pretty much made a great point. Like, if a person is getting pulled over by the drinking and driving, and he has kids, you separate the kids of the family because the person is breaking the law and he should get arrested, right? I truly believe that if parents are um, feeding these kids chemicals, especially at the developing age, right? 13 to 18 or 13 to 21, the bodies are developing, the mind is developing, and you're feeding these people chemicals, or you're castrating them. That's one of the most evil thing you can do. And I think all those parents that are consented to this, I truly believe they should get arrested. And I also believe doctors and surgeons should get arrested for that too. Like, there's no reason why you should be doing this to these children. You're creating more mental illness. This whole calling people by different pronouns so that they could feel better about themselves. How about you just try to feel better about yourself instead of forcing us to help make you feel better about yourself? Like, I'm bald. I've been bald since I was 24 or something like that. Yeah, I got bald young. You think I really care? Like, I love myself. Let's say I'm bald. I'm gonna stick with this baldness for the rest of my life. You know, I don't need a hair transplant. I don't need to do anything. If anything, I want my hair to stop growing on the side, so I don't need to get a haircut no more. So these different circumstances that I'm dealing with, just like if you're dealing with some sort of gender dysphoria or whatever, you should learn how to deal with that and overcome those challenges, as opposed to saying like, hey, I feel something is wrong, can you fix me? No, you have to emotionally and mentally fix yourself. And even if it takes time, it takes time. But we should not just, oh, okay, let's just put our children into these type of medication and these surgeries just so that they can feel better about themselves. And it turns out that over 40% of transgender killed themselves. Over 40%. Meaning that after the surgery that was supposed to, make them happy, they still killed themselves after that. Why? Because the surgery and these chemicals that you're feeding them don't actually make you feel better. They make you feel worse. They're not solutions at all. I think that I may not get into that, what they should and shouldn't do, but I would say that they're not. Those are not solutions, and those things should be taken away from children. And I know that I've talked to people the last couple of weeks about, oh, what about they want to ban books, bro? I've read some. I've looked into some of those books, and not that I read it from front to back, but I read some of those books. Some of those books talk about pedophilia, about being raped, sex. Those are not books for kids. And the idea that they're trying to change history in Florida with the books and like certain stories are not going to be taught, that's just false. Like, in reality, I looked at some of the books that Florida banned, especially when it comes to Black history, or American history rather. It's not that they're banning, or they're not going to talk about the history of slavery, because that's something that should be taught. But it's more of the agenda behind the history of slavery. Like, if we want to be honest, slavery had nothing to do about racism. It had everything to do about goods and services. Slavery existed everywhere in the world, and it did not stop by color, or race. Or rather, it didn't stop by race or gender or ethnicity. It didn't matter. If you were a slave, you were a commodity. They're gonna put you to work. You made money for whoever your slave owner was, and whether that's good or bad, that's a whole different argument. But we should make sure that we educate the people and be like, hey, this is how the world was back in the time. The reason why there were slaves is not because white people hated Black people or vice versa, because there were Black people that owned other Black slaves in the United States. There was quite a few. There were Native Americans that owned Black slaves. So are they racist too? No. Why? You know why? Because anyone could have been a slave. In the early 1900s, some African countries went to Europe, got hundreds of thousands of Europeans and made them into slaves. This happened in the early 1900s. but no one talks about that either, right? Um, but I feel as though the Democratic Party has done a good job convincing us to believe that they are for the people, that they have the best interests in mind, and they really don't. Um, just I mentioned the war in Ukraine, the Israel and the Hamas, the COVID mandates. I mean, the vaccine mandates, the banning of some of these books, transgenderism. Like, it's been more evil. It's been more bad things that they've done than good. So it's only natural that slowly, like, hey, maybe you're okay with some us sending money to Ukraine, but I'm sure you're not okay with transgenderism with children. I'm sure you're not okay with that. So, like, I think for me, the moment you hear anything that people are doing to children, I immediately see you as evil. I immediately see you as evil. You can't be a good person, like, or at least not mentally. Like, I don't know what you're seeing that you think that it is okay for children to go through these procedures or even be fed these chemicals. You're killing these kids. And the left promotes that ideology. The left is also anti-God, and I've personally, I've over the last maybe 10 years, I've gone away from my practice, and I'm a Catholic, but I've never been against people, or I never truly had any issues against people that were very religious, or that continue to be religious. I think that those are good things. I think they have a good place in a society. And in the left, there's none of that. The left does not like God. It does not like religion. It is anti-God, it is anti-religion. And I would like anyone to challenge me and tell me that that's not true. And what I mean by that, challenge me that's not true. I could guarantee you that if you go to the conservative side of things, you'll see that almost all of them, almost, a grand majority of them are very into their religion. And this goes from being a Muslim, being a Catholic, a Christian, Judaism. They all have conservative values. The left does not want any part of that. I'm not a big fan of liberals anymore. I think that liberals create a dangerous precedent, and it's not being done, and they don't do it in any they don't try to do it in any means to kind of like harm society, but I think a lot of their opinions about certain things don't make for a good society. And I've said certain things like that too. But I give you an example, right? The left will tell you, hey, look, you're 18, you're 21, you're 24. Go out there, have sex with people. Have a lot of sex with people. It's okay. Explore, learn yourself. Have fun, drink, smoke, do these drugs, just experiment, just do things responsibly. I know that it sounds, when you put it in a manner where it's like, hey, as long as you're being responsible about the actions you're taking, it's okay. I don't agree with that. Like, right now, as a 32-year-old man, if anything, I'm going to be more like, hey, don't do any of those things. Don't do any of those things, actually. Don't do it. I think that the more we do these things, or rather we accept some of these things, we don't create for a better society. And I know that that's not something favorable to a lot of people, but the truth of the matter is that the people that tend to have tend to be married and have kids and they live with their family are happier than the people that are not. And I don't think that's really debatable either. I do believe that the left creates more of an environment of being open, being free, being not controlled. So it allows people to want to explore different things. And even though it's not maybe directly harmful for that person, but it doesn't create a certain type of, I guess, happiness or peace or a more civilized society versus another society like the conservative movement, where hey, we're about uh, religion, God. We're about marriage, having kids, creating a stable home, watching your kids grow up. I'm not saying that the left doesn't have people that do certain some of the things, but they don't preach it the way that this side does. And I think this side preaches it so much that if you do anything to harm any of those three things, um, they they see you as an enemy or a threat to their way of living. And I think liberalism, which it has been taken to the extreme by this whole woke movement, and you know, Harris and Biden have, and the Democratic Party have kind of pushed this to a level where people are like, even people on the left are like, hey, actually, I don't want to be part of this, whatever it is going on here. Like, I think I'm gonna go over here. But the problem is that the people that are right here, that are liberals, we can say, or centrist or independents, they look at the right and they're like, oh, but these people are just all nut jobs, and it's not the reality. The reality is that these people, for the most part, or the conservatives, they're a bit more about law and order, structure, family, love, and they want certain things to be a certain way. And sometimes it might not be taken the best, but I'm okay with that as long as you protect what they value. And if you can protect what they value, all you have to do is respect it. And the Democratic Party has gone. They have failed. They have failed you guys. So we mentioned the wars, we mentioned transgenderism, we mentioned the border. The border was a disaster. Kamala Harris, the border czar, she was, and the left for years was saying, "Oh, she was the border czar," and now all of a sudden she's not. She was never the border czar. She's never the border czar. So where was she? She was or wasn't? In reality, her job, she was the border czar. President Biden said it, and she's only been to the border one time in the 4 years, and that was like a month or two ago. After she started running for presidency. So it goes to show you like how unserious these people are. They're a joke. And when she was asked about it, and I forgot, maybe it was 60 Minutes, but one of her interviews, she asked about, have you ever been to the border? And she was like, I never been to Europe, I think it was, she said. Are you kidding me? Your job, is that your response? There's like no accountability held right now. Like she can say whatever she wants. They can do whatever they want. And what do you think? You think that people in the Democrats were just gonna sit idle and just be like, oh, that's an okay answer? No, that was an incredible dishonest answer. What an irresponsible answer. And this is your vice president. So she failed at the border, and then the economy just continued to get worse. And I didn't want to talk about the economy because I think that that's a longer conversation of the causes and effects of what we're at right now with the inflation. But they have to be held accountable. That's their fault. I blame them for the way that we are right now. And I've said it before in my previous videos that the difference between when I was under Trump versus the Biden-Harris administration is that under Trump, I was able to get out of debt, start a new career, get out of debt, buy a home, all in the span of 4 years. In the Harris administration, I couldn't buy one home in the United States. I had to buy 3 properties in the Dominican Republic because it just doesn't make sense. The ROI on it is just not there. So the Democratic Party has made it harder for us to buy houses. Yeah, 4 years ago, in 2020, the average income in the United States to buy a home was like $75K. Do you guys know how much it is today in 2024? $120,000. That's almost $50,000 more. Or rather, almost $50,000 more. To buy a home, you need to make $50,000 more to buy a home. From 4 years ago, that's insane. Now, granted, we had people like BlackRock and some of these other companies that just bought all these single-family homes and made it difficult for people to compete, and so it's become a renter's market. And this new generation are not going to understand what it means to be a homeowner. They're going to continue to be renters. I don't know what the implications of that are going to be. That's why I'm pretty certain that most people that have roommates, unless they own their own home. For the most part anyway, or a good percentage. But What has the Democratic Party proved to you the last 4 years that they deserve your vote? I find it hard to really sit here and be objective and say like, hey, they were good for women's rights. Okay, really, what did they put back Roe versus Wade? No. So then, what is women's rights? And also this whole abortion argument. I just think that 99% of the women that are fighting for women's rights aren't going to use these women's rights. And don't at me either. That's a fact. Don't come with this BS. People, women that have certain issues during pregnancy, whether it's a miscarriage, whether it's some sort of complication, those don't count as abortions. Those don't fit under the narrative of abortions. And those are also the people that we are not fighting against. The Democrat, in case anyone knows, right? Abortion was created by something Grant. I forget the guy's name, but he wrote a book about, and this also stems from the Great Replacement theory, where they wanted to control the population of certain groups of people, and a lot of those were Black American people. So they came up with the idea of birth control. Then the doctor that created the birth control, I forget her name as well. Her and her friends came up with birth controls and then abortion, so that they could control. They can help with this idea of trying to control a certain groups of people from actually procreating. You know, I know that this and certain books of they've tried to change the image of this lady as she's some sort of hero, but she's not. I am against abortion strictly because I believe that every life matter. And I know that that's not something that everyone agrees upon, but I truly believe that even if they have certain disabilities, life is precious. Doesn't matter what it is. All life is precious, especially when it's yours. And when we talk about life, right, from 1970 to 2024, there have been over 19 million abortions from Black Americans. 19 million. That's more than the population of New York City. That's a whole new city of Black Americans we could have had. And that's only Black Americans. That's not white Americans or the Latinos or the other, or Asians. Those are not any of those, not including any of those group of people. So we're talking about 19 million abortions. You think that those people didn't deserve a chance? You didn't even give them a chance to make a difference in the world. They could have been doctors, innovators, lawyers, musicians, actors. They could have had a profound impact on our country today. But you guys decided to abort them. Tricked into believing that abortion was good. It's not. It's not. And this is not the same as people with certain conditions where a life is at risk, right? Not to get into any details, but it's not those. These are the type of people that from one day to the next decide, hey, I no longer want to have this child. And I believe that if you before you put yourself in a situation where that might happen, you should be responsible with what you allow other men to do to you. And I'm sorry, women might not all women might like this, but it's the truth. Like, you control what men can do to you. And again, we're not talking about those situations where, you know, rape is involved and things like that. We're talking about the average woman that get an abortion, which is like 95% of the women that get an abortion is the people that get abortion more than 2 times. That's 95% of the people that get an abortion, or 90% of the people that get an abortion, something like that. And those people should not be allowed to get abortion. And those are the type of people that open their legs for anyone, have kids, and then abort just cause. It's like, be more responsible with your decisions so you actually don't get pregnant. Or how about you don't have sex? And I blame the men too. But then the men are almost like, hey, you know what? Like, you know, she opened her legs to me. She's gonna get aborted anyway, so it's not my responsibility. And I'm not trying to say that that's okay. It's not okay. I blame the men for that too. Men should not be just hitting and quitting for any girl that opened her legs to them. I think that's wrong too. And that's where the left has made that acceptable. And not saying that it doesn't happen on the right. It does. Of course it does. It's just that it's frowned upon. On the left, it's not so much frowned upon. And the Democratic Party has got everyone to believe that abortion is such an important matter or an important issue that we should always take into account, when it's not. It's just not. It's not. It's not more important than the economy. It's not more important than World War III or preventing World War III. It's not more important than transgenderism with the issues that we have with our kids. It's not more important than the border. I can continue going on and on. It's not more important than many of the most important issues that we have today. And we have these people that are convincing you to believe that that's the case. All the women that voted against Trump yesterday was because of that. I'm blown away at the fact that that's an actual argument. Like, is that really your argument? What about all these other things? You know, and abortion killed 19 million people, 19 million Black Americans. Those 19 million Black Americans that could have made a difference. You took that away from them. You guys took that. The Democratic Party has created this. And the people, by the way, the people that created that were behind abortion and birth control are Democrats who are fucking racist, who did everything possible to stop Black Americans from procreating, and poor white people too. But they just didn't want certain groups to procreate because they were procreating at a higher number than certain people of status. And you're shoving these ideologies down our throats as if, like, if we don't agree with you, you're racist or transphobic or homophobic or a Nazi. And these name callings, they no longer have meaning. And that's something else the Democratic Party has done the last couple of years. They label everyone as some of these words and expect that everyone's gonna rally around them and be like, yeah, you're right. That's not the case. It's not the case. These words no longer have meaning because of your party, the Democratic Party. They just don't. Like, whenever I hear someone say racist now, I just don't believe it. You've made people like myself become immune to that word, or fascist or Nazi. Like, are you really that? Like, what is that word anymore? I don't know what it means anymore. And that's what the Democratic Party has done. So it has done a good job isolating certain people that were already more or less in the middle, and you've pushed a lot of us aside. And then now we lead to freaking the Joe Biden. You guys, the Democratic Party has had 4 years to prepare for Trump, but you know what they decided to do? They waited for the year of the election and started indicting Trump to and take him to court and make sure that I forget this judge's name, finds this guy's guilty regardless of any witnesses, and accepting any evidence. There was no victims. There was the banks agreed upon all the deals with Trump, and then you still charged him. But as of today, guys, just as today, the day after he is won, the DOJ has dropped all charges against Donald Trump. It's as if what the Democratic Party has been saying all these years, that if he comes to the office, he's going to persecute everyone that was against him. Isn't that what you just did? Which is why you just dropped charges the day after he won. Silly me. I didn't notice. By the way, the right is not going to promote that. You know why? Because they actually don't care. They got their guy. And the Democratic Party pushed this. They, instead of finding a competent leader, sorry. Let me not skip the fact that Joe Biden is still our president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. That if anyone wants to step out of line with us, they're gonna get hammered. We have a president Biden, the senile president who has been president for the last 4 years. The Democratic Party lied to us, saying that he was in good and perfect health. He was not. The old man is senile. He has no business being in the office. In fact, they should have forced him to step down years ago, but they didn't. because they did not want to give up their power. They wanted to maintain their power with Biden just to not let Trump win. I'm blown away at this reality. If you want to win, put forward your best candidate to win, not do everything possible for someone else to win. And the Democratic Party knew Joe Biden was senile for all these years. All these years. Anyone that voted for the left, have you guys questioned why your party has lied to you about that? Have you questioned why is it that 4 years ago, maybe I could afford to buy a house, but now I can't under your party? Can you question why is it that we've had more wars under your party? Why we've had more illegals coming over into our country, and our money, our taxes are going to these people over hurricane victims? Have you guys questioned that? Or does Donald Trump's tweets bother you more? And that's where I personally and a lot of other people could not vote for the left. We just couldn't. I saw through that already. I don't care about what anyone says about Dominicans. I really don't. I've argued with some people, and not only Puerto Ricans. I've argued with some Dominicans that were protecting the Puerto Ricans, and some black people that got at me for like not being upset about what the comedian said about Puerto Rico. I mean, here's the difference, and I'm gonna say this again. Jeffrey, I forgot that comedian, the Nigerian comedian. He's a Democrat. When he came out with the Me No Black, Me No Dominican, and everyone was going forward with that little joke. Black Americans, Puerto Ricans, even been the Patria Dominicans going with that joke and that garbage joke. We were getting a lot of hate for years, the Dominican community. For years. He attacked the Dominican people, not the country, the people. And pretty much painted them as racist. And he was a Democrat. Dominicans still were a Democrat. So with that logic, right? The comedian at Trump's Friday at MSG made a joke about Puerto Rico, the island, not the people, the island, that there was a lot of garbage there. And it turns out there's actually a lot of garbage there, which I didn't know about. Which, you know what? Like, if I'm Puerto Rico, I'm probably mad at why the fuck the Democratic Party has to help deal with this trash. Because they don't care about you. That's why. The Democratic Party does not care about Puerto Rico. So this guy makes a joke, and you guys are saying Trump said it. Trump didn't say the joke. Oh, but it was at his rally. He also made fun of other Hispanics and Black Americans, and no one is crying about it. Like, when he said, oh, Hispanics don't pull out, and they always have a lot of babies. I mean, he's really referring to, if you want to be honest, he's really referring to Mexicans and some of the South American countries. I didn't hear any Mexicans or any other South American country get offended by that joke. And he actually said the people, not the island or a country, the people, when he made that joke about the pulling out. The Puerto Rican joke, it wasn't funny. It could be offensive. But to blame it on Donald Trump as if like that was him, that wasn't him. That was some other guy. And like, there's so many things that are taken out of context with Donald Trump. And like, I'm telling you, I just say every single time you say, and anyone that says here, like, oh, Donald Trump said this. Okay, get that clip. Go to YouTube. Find the where he says it. And just watch a minute or two before he said it. And then a minute or two after he said it. And you'll see that the way that you are being presented this piece of information is taken out of context completely. It doesn't mean that he doesn't say wild stuff. It doesn't mean that he doesn't say things. He doesn't talk shit. He does. He says a lot of things a lot of time. I think a lot of it is actually pretty funny. And even at times inappropriate. But in reality, I want you to report what he actually says and in the context he says it. Don't feed me false information and say that this guy is an evil dictator, Nazi, fascist person, when in reality, he is none of that. To compare anyone to Hitler would mean that you are someone that have killed millions of people. How many people did Donald Trump kill? Who's killed more people, Barack Obama or Donald Trump? And then talk to me about who's a fascist. Okay? Then talk to me about who's a Nazi. Please. Because Obama dropped a lot of bodies. A lot. A lot. He dropped a lot of bodies. Trump didn't drop bodies like that. Like, this guy has dropped less bombs than almost any of these presidents. And the Democratic Party has allowed this guy, Joe Biden, to continue to be president. And this guy was senile. And then what ended up happening? There was no primary, guys. No one voted for Harris in 2020. No one. When Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her in that debate, in the DOP debate, destroyed her. She had to drop out. And then after the debate with Trump, it took the debate for Trump for Joe Biden, or rather for the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, to be like, hey, Biden, I think you should drop out. You're going to lose. You're senile. Everyone sees it. Everyone sees it. Why didn't anyone get upset by that? If I was a Democrat early in 2024 and I saw that happen, I would be livid. Livid. You lied to us. You lied to us. You lied and said that this guy was healthy. He was fit. What? If he's bad now, how long was he bad for? How many times have you guys questioned that? Or it's just that you're just going to say, oh, I don't like how they handled it. It's not about, I don't like how they handled it. He was running a country for years. How long was he like this? How long did you know he was like this? How do we hold you accountable for allowing that to happen? No? Now, one time, have you guys questioned that? Because that's my question. How long has Joe Biden been this way? How long did they know he was like this? Is that not more important than what some tweets Donald Trump says? Or some comments Donald Trump says? It is. Because Donald Trump is not in office. And he's still not in office, guys. We still have 2 months of Joe Biden. We have 2 months of Joe Biden. Okay? And we're talking about Donald Trump. How he's going to destroy this country. So that's the Democratic Party for you, man. And then you have Harris that just came in. She didn't get a vote in the 2020 primary because she dropped out. And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, right before she became the nominee, that no one voted for, she was voted even by CNN and ABC as the worst vice president ever. The worst vice president ever. And then once she starts running, oh my God, what a great candidate she is. She's gonna be the uniter. She's gonna unite everyone. Bro. And then people get offended that and it's true. When Harris was first introduced, she was introduced as a Indian woman, not a black woman. She wasn't. I know some people were using that term before, but she wasn't a black woman. She was an Indian woman. And her father is Jamaican, which is not the same as Black American. Completely different cultures and completely different group of people. And even if you want to say that, oh, they're black because of dark skin, like, no, that's not the same thing. I think it's offensive to compare anyone that's not Black American, that does not have roots of Black American, to anyone else that isn't from here, right? Just because the skin color is the same. We don't have their history. I'm Dominican. We have a lot of African ancestry. My African ancestry is completely different from Haiti's, or it's completely different from Puerto Rico's, or Black America, or Jamaica, right? So we cannot compare and be like, okay, well, we all went to the same thing. No, we didn't all go to the same thing. Some people had it worse than others. And this idea that we should just be like, oh, we should just fall under this umbrella is wrong. But I digress. You have, she's a Jamaican and Indian woman that was raised by an Indian woman. Let me just say, and I could get out Obama at the same thing, because he was raised by a white woman in Hawaii. And what does he know about Black culture? And I'm gonna tell you what I mean by that. I was raised by 2 Dominican parents. Okay, what the fuck does Dominican parents know about Black American culture? Oh, nothing to say? Yeah, that's right. So if I was dark skinned, like maybe my younger brother Thomas. If I was dark skinned, what, and I grew up acting or taking, getting into the I guess accepting into or accumulating myself into the Black American culture. What the hell do I know about Black American culture? I was raised by two Dominican parents. She was raised by an Indian mom. What does an Asian woman, rather, what does an Asian woman know about Black American culture? How does she raise a Black American child when she's Indian with Indian culture and norms? I'm just asking you to have an open mind. Just think about that for a second. Just think about that for a second. I get it. I'm from New York, and a lot of the culture is mixed between blacks, Americans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, white Americans. Right? It's a lot of it is mixed. It's true, and there's certain aspects that we take from each other that kind of feels like it's similar, but it's not. There is a difference, very very different. And like, are we gonna sit here and say that she's black because of her skin color? I saw Candace Owen make a tweet and said, "Hey, she no longer has to call herself black anymore. She can go back to being Indian." It's so funny, but it's true. And that's the Democratic Party for you. We have someone that is lying about her ancestry, by the way, or rather, not her ancestry, but more like changing the narrative behind who she really is, and how she was raised. And it seems as though this person that the Democratic Party just decided to put forward, and you guys all hated before she became the nominee, and now all of a sudden she's like one of the best things ever, and she's a person that it's like when she became the nominee, she did not do interviews for like a good month or so, and then she started doing interviews, and it's like when she reached a peak, and then when she started doing interviews, it was like this. She slowly started going down. She's a lawyer. She has years of experience in politics, and she's been the vice president for the last 4 years. Can you explain to me why every interview that she does, she sounds more and more incompetent? I don't understand. I don't understand how she sounds more and more incompetent per interview. And if I'm the left, I would look at this and be like, hey, are you sure you're qualified, or you're actually capable of running? Because something's off here. Like, I'm not convinced that you are the leader that I'm looking for. Unless you want to talk about how bad Trump is. Now, you're right. Trump is evil, 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 evil. I mean, that's what the Democratic Party ran on. They tried to indict this guy. They tried to censor this guy. They tried to assassinate him twice. And I'm not saying the Democratic Party did that, but I mean, when you're calling someone Hitler all the time, I mean, I would be afraid of Hitler too. So it's only right that you're going to incite certain behaviors or certain actions of people because you're calling this guy Hitler, one of the most evil men of all time. So this guy got tried to get assassinated twice, and then you have someone that and now you could do is only call him Nazi, fascist, and all those other things. Like him going to MSG. You guys compared a rally in Madison Square Garden, one of the biggest stadiums in the world, to a Nazi rally from 1920 or 30, whatever it was. Like, what does that has nothing to do with each other? It just had nothing to do with each other. But look at how the media and the left-wing media, has created this narrative behind some of the things he says, as if like he's such an evil human being. Instead of just saying like, hey, look how great my person is. Like when the left, when I've the few that I've listened to right-wing media, because I don't watch Fox News at all, pretty much at all. What I do watch is independent people, and it's mostly people on X or YouTubers, or podcasts. Just because these independents have, if they're going to be biased, they're going to be biased on their own accord, as opposed to CNN, ABC, Fox News, where they get paid to spit out certain information to the masses. And I go to more of these independents Or I actually watch CNN and ABC and MSNBC more than I watch. Those are pretty much the legacy media that I watch outside of these independents. And I love watching them because sometimes you hear them talk about certain things, and I'm flabbergasted at the fact that some of the false information, the disinformation they be spewing, is complete garbage. It's just complete garbage. Like, it's the fear mongering is out of control. It's out of control, and the left has just paid these legacy media so much money just to say this guy's evil instead of just propping their candidate up. And she failed miserably. So, you know why people voted for Trump? Like myself, it's because we looked past that. I no longer see the Democratic Party as a party that I want to be affiliated with at all. At all. There's nothing about that party as a whole that I'm like, you know what? Even if there is some good things about them, there's no way that these other things that I see of who they are and what they represent is something that I would like to affiliate myself with at all. And even if the Republican Party has a lot of bad things about it too, like a lot of their values, I see myself that I affiliate myself with that. And the people in the middle, I think you're full of shit. But that's just where I stand, because I know I had arguments even at certain places and online with people who are always in the middle, and you're full of it because either you're gonna vote left or right regardless. So you might as well grow a pair and go with a party and stick with it until the other party convinces you to switch. Now, and this is what I'm saying. I'm not married to the Republican Party right now. In the next 4 years, if Donald Trump just starts actually behaving like a Nazi, and starts dropping bombs to many of these countries and killing people, or actually starts killing minorities like people want to portray that he's going to do, or whatever, then I'm gonna go right back to the left. Right? I'm just am, because I'm not gonna stand by some things I disagree with. So that's why I think being in the middle is full of shit. But the Democratic Party has not done anything to make me feel better about what they stand for and who they are. I've only been fear-mongered. This last year, like I said, I watched CNN and MSNBC, and all they do is talk bad about Trump. Trump bad, Trump bad. Tell me why Harris is good. I see sometimes that they talk about it. Oh, she did this, she did that. But when you actually sit down and look at the interviews that Harris is doing, it's these softball questions. They're a joke. They're a joke. And she's rehearsed. She says the same thing over and over again. Like, at the very least, I don't even watch a full Donald Trump prep rally. I don't watch a full thing. I probably see like 10 minutes of it, and that's it. Because I get what I need to get. I get the information I want to get. I hear what he wants to say. Him crack jokes here and there, and then that's it. I move on. But I actually cringe listening to Harris in any interview. It's almost as if it's embarrassing. She sounds more and more incompetent in every single interview. And Trump, he sounds the same. I could go to an interview with Trump 15 years ago, and he talks the same. It's as if him becoming the president hasn't changed him at all, which I actually love that. I love that. That's a great thing to do. That's a great thing to have. Whereas Kamala Harris, she seemed smarter 4 years ago before she became the vice president. I'm looking at her interviews 4 years ago, and I'm like, okay, it just seems like an interesting woman. Like, she talks well. She could go around certain things, but I don't know what happened. And that's the problem. The Democratic Party has failed you. They failed to find a competent leader because they truly felt that the American people was going to fall for their propaganda regarding Trump and all the negative things that comes with Trump. And that's wrong. That's wrong. So if you're upset that Trump won, you shouldn't be upset that Trump won. You should be upset that the Democratic Party failed you. The Democratic Party could not find a suitable candidate to go against Trump. That's the problem. And that has been the problem the last 4 years. And what happens is when you spend so much time censoring and trying to shut someone up, you're never ready for that right hook that's going to come out of nowhere, and boom, it's going to knock you out. And as we saw, more than half the population that voted for Trump. New York New York, a blue state, went 45-54, 55. New York. That tells me everything I need to know. That New York was in play. And if Trump had more time, I think New York could have flipped the red. And I started seeing it as I was meeting different people. But, this is an hour-long video. I don't know how many people are actually going to see this, or sit down to the full hour. But in reality, if you're mad at Trump, be mad at the Democratic Party. They failed you. And they actually don't care that they failed you. And if you, now that Trump is the newly elected president, what I recommend is prepare yourself. I don't think that the first year is going to go all that well with Trump. I think the economy is still going to dip, but I think has to dip first before it goes up, unless he starts cutting a lot of federal organizations where they're not needed, and maybe that might help with spending. But as of right now, I think that the economy is going to go down first before it goes up. But when it does go up, be ready. Save your money. Be frugal and wait till the time is right to invest. And I think that if you want to have an open mind, I would say is that regardless of who the president is, it should not affect your life. You still have the full control of your life. That's a fact. But how your local government and your government as a whole runs helps dictate how much you can control and what you can't control. And that's the difference. And I think Donald Trump is going to allow us to be not as micromanaged by our local and federal government as it was the last 4 years. And if he can do that, you're going to see a lot more people invest in certain things. And things are going to change in a more positive way. But hey, if he doesn't and he messes up, then I'm just gonna go ahead and take back everything I said. But as of right now, he's already shown what he could do and what he can't do. And the Democratic Party has shown me what they can't do. They failed miserably, and it's their fault that Trump won. Trump has his people, Trump has his supporters, but the Democratic Party could not find someone suitable to go against Trump, and it's their fault they lost. It's their fault. So I knew this. Have an open mind. If you disagree with me, challenge me. Come at me. Fact check me. If you have certain questions, there was a couple of things that I said there that kind of ranted. Let me know. Reach out to me. I'll have an open debate with anyone, and I'll do it with open arms. Like, I'm not gonna hear and start name calling you or saying these or judging you. I don't judge anyone that's voted for Kamala, because I think for the most part, people that voted for Kamala have Trump derangement syndrome or just are not politically aware of the things that are happening. And I do blame you for not putting yourself in a situation where you're aware, but I also understand that people also have lives and other interests. So I think that if you want to learn more, reach out. Like, I don't know everything, but I know a good amount. Or at least I've tried to keep myself informed with the things that are happening for both sides. And I think it's very important that we're aware of some of the things that change, some changes that are happening, whether it's local or federal government. But reach out. I hope you enjoyed this video. But yeah, have a good day. And Trump 2024, baby. Trump 2024.